Okay, today I want to show you the tie-in of the iron blue. It's, to be quite honest with you, I've tried to avoid tying smallish flies because I'm aiming at newcomers, beginners to fly tying, really. But this little fly is so important that I feel obliged to show it to you. It's a little upwinged fly. It's easily recognized when on the water because it's generally a sort of inky blue in colour. Now, trout are extremely fond of it, often picking it out from other upwinged flies that may be floating down in greater numbers. The fly often hatches out in windy conditions, and the hatch can be all too short. Your chances of success will be diminished unless you're prepared for it and ready for it. Searching through your fly box to find the correct pattern when the hatch is in progress, well, I would say is probably doomed to failure. Now, I suggest you keep the artificials. If you tie this fly, keep the artificials in one corner of your fly box so that you know where to look for it. Every minute counts. It's not a miracle fly, but it will often take trout when no other naturals are on the water. No other natural iron blues are on the water. Okay, so I'm going to tie it for you now. I use a claret silk, a maroon silk, because at the butt end, the back end of the body, it should have a sort of a claret butt. A little bit of claret showing, which I believe is to imitate the egg sac. Now, you see I've started quite a way back from the eye, and I'm going to put in the tails first. Tails, sort of a bluey-grey cock feather. This is a tip of one that I've been using. I draw down to get the tips in line. I draw down the amount I think I'm going to need, which is about there. And I tie these on. With a dry fly like this, it is a dry fly, the tail can be a bit long, but that's too long. So I'll shorten it a little bit. That should be about right. I'll take the silk underneath. I think it gives the tail a slightly better profile. And I'm building up a little bit of a butt here. Just there. Now I'm going to remove surplus tips of the tail. Like that. Now, before I go any further, pardon me, I'm going to put on the wings. Now, the wings are optional, but I'm tying them, putting wings on to show you how to do it, but it's entirely up to you. The fly works just as well without wings, but you have the option, just leave them off. The wings I'm going to use are from this is a hen cape, grey hen cape, quite a dark grey hen cape. I take a feather out and I use a wing cutter to cut out the feather. Now, wing cutters, they come in a little box like this, and you've got all different sizes. That's quite a large one there for a mayfly or something. But the one I'm going to use is one of the smallest in the pack, in the box. It's got a little blade there with a gap in. You get your feather and you press down. And when you press down, you put it on a piece of newspaper or something, and you press it down just like, as you've heard me say before, like a pastry cutter. And this is what you'll get. You'll get this type of thing. And when you tear down each side, you get a wing like that. That's one wing, okay? And then you do the same with the other wing. So we get the two wings. Just prepare them a moment to make sure I've got it right. Okay, now I'm going to put them on. First of all, I'll take... What I will do before that, which I should have said, is I'm going to tie in the body. Pardon me. Now the body is stripped peacock herl, one of these taken from the eye feather. And this is the type. We'll take one of these out like this, put it on a piece of glass or hard formica, and run a school child's rubber down it to strip the flue off it. I do them in bulk. I just dip them in some bleach and then run them under a tap and run my nail down them. Now the body, when you've stripped it, the natural colour is useful in a lot of flies, but on this particular one it should be dyed either claret or a purple. But I simply run a blue felt marker pen down it on a piece of paper. That makes it blue, and then I go down with the red and I get that sort of maroony purple colour, which I will put on now. Now this is tied in at the tip like this. Bear with me a sec. It's not the strongest feather, and usually I tie this in by the wide end, which is against most fly tie-in rules. You normally tie material in by the narrow end, but because not a lot of this body is going to be showing, and the best markings are at the wider end of the flue, I put it in by that end. Now before I wind it, I'll put the wings on. The wings that we prepared earlier. This is number one. I'm putting them sort of back to back so that they splay out. Now I'm just lining up the tips, which can be a little bit fiddly, and I just ask you to bear with me while I do this. It is a bit fiddly, and maybe newcomers won't want to bother with it, but it's my mission to show you lots of options. This will be one of them. I've got the two wings like that, back to back, so that they're splaying out, and I'm going to put them on, and they'll come on. They go about a third of the way up the fly body, about there, to leave room for the hackle in front. So this is where I will tie them on. Bit like that. Look at them, draw them through a little bit if you want to, and that's where they will go. About like that. I won't put too many winds in front of them because I want to put the hackles there. But what I will do now is I'll sort of part them and take the two stalks down through the middle. That will help to keep the wings apart. And I will nip off the two stalks like that. Okay, is that coming out okay? Now, with my wings there, I'll take the silk back up behind and then one wind in front. The wind in front will be temporarily. I'll be coming back in a moment to tie down the body hackle, the body stalk, which I've tied in. Now, see, I'm putting a touch of varnish on my side of the body. This will help the stripped peacock quill to stick down. Right, I start a little way in because I'm trying to leave a purple blob at the back. I don't think it matters too much, but that's how the tie-in is. And I'm just touching turns with this as I take it up, because the quill has got nice markings. It's almost giving a segmentation to the... Hope my fingers are not in your way. You'll be able to see it in a moment. And I'm up to there. You see that? I take my silk, back one, which will be where I want it, behind the wings, to secure this until I get to it to do the job properly. And I've secured that quill body. I've taken that away. Now that's it there. Now I'm at that scenario. I can see a couple of little fibres hanging down below which have come from the wing, but that doesn't matter because pardon me, they will get lost in the hackle. Excuse me while I have a sup of my coffee. Okay, now the hackle. It's got to be a small hackle because it's a small fly. So this is a long one from a saddle cape which I've dyed. I've dyed it that inky blue colour which everyone talks about when the iron blue is on the water. And incidentally, this is probably the only fly that trout will take when they are smutting. What I mean by smutting is when they're taking the angler's curse, those tiny little midges. I think the technical name for them is the canis. Okay, I'm putting on the hackle now, and I'm going to put it on with a figure of 8 because I like that way of doing it. One there, back over, back this way. Now I'm going to trace the stalk and get it back behind so that I can tie it down, bend it over like that. And I'm going to bring my silk to the front. Now that stalk, because it's tied down like that, at that angle, the hackle won't pull out when I start to wind it. Nipping off the stalk, like that. Put it back in profile for you. Okay, now I wind it. I don't need a hackle pliers because it's a big long hackle and I can handle it okay. Now, a few winds behind helps to keep the wings upright. But we'll also do some in front. A couple of winds in front like this. And that's about it. I'll secure the hackle with a wind like that until I can get to tying it down properly. And another one. Now I can nip it off. When you cut any hackle, keep your scissors closed till you get right up to it and then give it a nip. And that way you won't remove too many of the fibres which we need to keep the fly afloat. Now you'll probably see I've got some sticking out the front. So what I do now, I use cotton bud, which I've cut one end off, smoothed it off, and I'm going to push these fibres back like this to expose the head so that I can tie the head down properly and secure the whole fly. Draw things back. And although they're back at the moment, I'll leave them there until I put on my usual whip finish. And then I can draw them forward to reposition them if I feel it's necessary. Okay, whip finish. It's a small fly, so I can just give it 3 winds. 2, 3. I draw it up and remove my needle. It's a small fly, it's a size 16. The hook is a Camazan B440 dry fly trout, size 16. I've tried not to, as I said earlier, I don't want to do complications for newcomers, so I've tried to keep away from these small hooks. I actually tie flies down to a 24 myself, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't use them very much because they take tiddlers and what have you, and I don't want to catch little ones and then struggle to release them, even though I use barbless hooks most of the time. It's still a bit of a nuisance. So most of my dry flies are 14 or 12. Right, I'm just putting some varnish on this head, just like that, and I'll clear the eye. Very important little fly. Push up a hackle to clear the eye. Now, while we're there, I would normally wait for this to dry and then I will draw these forward, but as we're doing a demonstration and we haven't got all the time in the world, I'll draw them forward and hope they don't stick on the varnish, and that's how I will be fishing it, just like that. Now I think you'll agree that's a lovely, attractive little fly. Can you see the segmentation in the body and the position of the wings? And try to rotate it so that you can see the position in the wings. And you can see the tail, which helps it to float and stabilize it. Very important, lovely little fly. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you picked up a few tips. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time on Peter Ross on Fly Tying.